What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast, a proud partner of the Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, and joining me to talk a little bit about a Packers Patriots preseason game is my lovely co-host Jordan Dresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, Tot Nation? Let's go, Tot. What in Tot Nation?
What in Tot Nation was my reaction after that first drive from the Packers Saturday night?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was Josh Myers with the little oopski.
Oops,
Sorry, I don't know. I
daisies.
don't know why I'm talking like a weirdo.
Morning
I'm doing
radio
well. How
host.
are you?
Doing
Yeah,
doing well. Thank you. Um, Packers losing to the New England Patriots 21-17 after three quarters and some change after the game was suspended due to an injury on the New England Patriots side. I believe his name was Isaiah Bolden was the
yes,
gentleman player.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Everything okay. Had full feeling in his extremities and was released from the hospital this morning and flew home with the team. So scary hit on just happenstance play in coverage on defense in the third quarter or early the parts of the fourth quarter. And both teams that had some injuries up to this point in the game, and both teams decided to call it quits and rather think about Isaiah Bolton and his health rather than continue to play, considering it was preseason. So, all that being said, a lot to talk about regarding the Packers in this preseason game. Like we have mentioned, the first drive was a little testy, but after that, it turned out pretty well. So, first things first, I think we ought to start with the star of the show, Mr. Jordan Love himself. 5 of 8, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Didn't get to show a whole lot on that first drive. He didn't have. I think they maybe had like one pass, if that, on that drive before Josh Myers sent the snap into orbit.
Yeah.
But settled in and like I ended up going, like I had said, 5 for 8 with a touchdown. The touchdown, an absolute thing of beauty to Jaden Reed over the middle. I saw people comparing it to, I think it was Greg Jennings' slant touchdown over the middle in the Super Bowl from Aaron Rodgers. It was something like that, or a different play against the Steelers, but
We can aspire to things,
right.
right?
I think it was Cheesehead TV that had tweeted out that comparison in the videos
Oh,
like next to each other. But all in all, great catch by Jaden Reed, stretching out his arms, getting in the end zone, and doing a little dancey dance. So, Jordan, what do you think of your fellow Jordan Love?
well, my fellow Jordan. Really, that drive. The touchdown obviously capped it off, but that drive was just a thing of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
We saw everything. We saw the arm, the big bomb to Romeo Dobbs, his little toe tapping catch.
Still
Got
don't
it
know
up
how they
for.
came down with that.
See, so they challenged it
Yep.
during the game, and I was like, yeah, he's got the ball. I'm just looking at whether he's in or out, and I thought he was in pretty much the entire way. I could see why it was a judgment call.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for some reason I was like, yeah, he's got it. I don't know what the problem is here.
Right.
42 yards on that bomb. He showed off a little how he's going to make plays with his feet.
Scrambling.
The next
A lot of scrambling. I haven't
scrambling.
seen that in about 5, 6, 7 years.
It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit.
With
And
with
then
with such speed, I should say.
yes, of course. The elusiveness was very great. Um, and we got to see a little bit of like spunky Jordan Love too.
Mm-hmm.
That resulted in a unnecessary roughness penalty from I forget who the player was.
Roberts. I forget his first name, but
Oh yeah, that's right. Um, and then a couple plays later, just the perfectly poised throw to Jordan Reed for the touchdown. Talked about it after the game and just noticed like his explanation totally lines up with what you could see him seeing it and like see it. I'm explaining this very terribly, but the reason why he kind of holds the ball for an extra beat is that you see the linebacker just underneath. And if you rush that throw, it is 100% like a pick. If he catches it and corrals it, then he's off to the races. But just holding on to that ball and then kind of just throwing the perfectly timed throw like that was a thing of beauty. And then Jaden Reed finished it home. But yeah, I just thought like obviously the first drive ending the way it did, and then next drive with the punt. We're gonna take the lumps. It's inevitable with this team, with how young it is, with how inexperienced that Jordan Love is right now, and just trying to get everything in synchronicity. But seeing all that, or saying all that, and seeing all that, and then to put together a drive like that, like it was just exactly, I guess, what we want to see out of the Packers and everything like that. An ad just went off on my headphones, and that's why I just like froze to death right there. Stop me! I thought you were talking. Anyway, that was my thoughts on Jordan Love, especially that drive.
Loved seeing Zach Tom get into the mix to come to Jordan Love's defense. Meek-mannered Zach Tom coming up and ended up getting a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on that touchdown, because I think he was still jawing with the Patriots sideline or any of the players, and they hit him with the penalty. So like to see him standing up for the team and becoming sort of that jawing guy, because I think David Bakhtiari talked about it too in practice earlier in training camp, where everyone thinks Zach Tom is just so kind of calm and quiet, but that he's got some sass to him, and I think that really showed out on coming to Jordan Love's protection on that late hit, which was like so weird because Jordan Love was running straight forward, but like looking back at the defender, making sure he like wasn't about to get tackled, but also enough for the first down. And so Jordan Love was looking at the guy when he slid. Like, I don't know how he still tackled him and wanted to go down for the late hit, but I'm not mad at it.
No.
I think it was on the Jaden Reed touchdown catch. AJ Dillon absolutely pancaked the corner that was blitzing. It was incredible. Like play action, and the second the play action was done, AJ Dillon just stuffed this guy. That was blitzing through like the B gap or so. Like I think like, in between the tackle and the guard. And my word, was it violent. Gave him Jordan Love enough time to get that throw off and get a touchdown, but sheesh. Like that's using his strength in a different way that we haven't seen a whole lot of before. I can't tell you the last time I've seen a huge block like that from AJ Dillon.
Quadzilla. You get between those quads and
yeah, it literally looked like I forget his first name. Mills. I don't want to say Davis Mills.
Jalen or Jaden Mills.
Yeah, no, yeah, Jalen Mills. Came through and it looked like he just ran to a brick wall. Like he went down so hard, dude, which is really cool to see. But alas, pretty great drive from the offense that way. And then, in addition to all that, Luke Musgrave is involved, dude. He had, I think, 2 catches. Nothing super, like, exciting. 2 catches, 13 yards. Just a fine 2 catches and a few series. But they were mixing him in everywhere. He was targeted 3 times, was blocking a whole bunch, and was just in all of these plays all the time. Like, I think they're going to be mixing him in a whole lot more than we think this year.
Yeah. I think he is. There was some talk about during the practice week when they were doing the joint practices with Patriots, like he had like a read option or a red zone run or something
they had
like that.
a red zone end around for him.
Like, I don't know how much of these things will actually be of value or be put to use during the season, but it's clear that Musgrave is going to be. I mean, obviously, too, the tight end depth has been eroded somewhat, but with his athletic gifts and everything like that, like the way that they're going to try to weaponize him is very tantalizing,
to
say the least. And then it's a matter of, again, we know what he needs to improve on, to stay on the field, to get those reps, because it's all about trusting the fact that he, can be a suitable blocker for Love, definitely in the run game, pass game, if he's not running a route or anything like that too. But yeah, just the stuff that is coming out week after week, day after day of how Luke Musgrave is kind of, getting his feet wet is very, very tantalizing.
Yeah, I think he's going to be for sure one of the top 3 receivers on this team this year. Like, I just think they're mixing in him.
Ooh.
Well, like yardage and completion wise, like
Yeah, yeah.
just production wise, I think he's going to be in that realm. They're mixing him in so much in this initial 2 preseason games and in practice that it really seems like he's going to be a staple of this offense one way or the other this year.
Yeah.
I think for sure blocking wise too. Like he's just going to be, and for what my money's worth, probably the starting tight end come week 1 because
Yeah,
from what
100%.
like DeGuara isn't showing anything that's really left. Like there's nothing really to be desired about how his game is. He
And
had
even then, he's largely playing in the backfield.
yeah
Yeah, I mean, he has more sets of value that way than,
he had
kind of being the extra or a tight end.
he had 2 targets Josiah DeGuara did and 1 catch for no yards. He had 1 catch. I think it was in like the
It was the
second quarter.
third and one.
Yeah, 3rd and 1, and caught it and just couldn't get to the line of scrimmage or to the first down marker. My apologies. To get that first down, they ended up having to go for it on 4th down. I ended up getting it, but just needed to make that play. And then the first drive, it was albeit a rushed throw from Jordan Love, but it hit Josiah DeGuara right in the hands, and he just dropped it. It wouldn't have been much for anyways. That'd been like a 2-yard gain, but it's a drop. It's just a drop as it is. So I think they're gonna roll with Musgrave and DeGuara in that order this season, and like let Tucker Kraft kind of develop because he wasn't really doing a whole much besides blocking, in these sets in the 2nd and 3rd quarter. So obviously, being a 3rd round pick, second round pick, Luke Musgrave, 2nd, right?
Yeah, second round.
Versus a 3rd or 4th round pick. I don't know why my memories escape me at the moment. But for Tucker Kraft, it's just that much difference in skill level, pretty much. Like Luke Musgrave, very raved about coming out of college, drawing a lot of comparisons to some elite tight ends in the league right now. Who really knows how that'll shake out? I saw comparisons from Dallin Levitt to Travis Kelce. That's a high aspiration. But the way they're using him and just how big he is and how he's pulling in some throws, I could see why a teammate might want to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
We talked about how Luke Musgrave was getting involved pretty early and pretty often. I'm not going to attribute any sort of worth to this now, but it's definitely worth mentioning that Christian Watson is like the opposite of Luke Musgrave right now. Just, I think 1 target in 5 drives for Christian Watson over these 2 games, and it was the bomb on down the right-hand side against the Bengals in the first drive, I believe. And that's the only target he's had. So it's worth noting that I think a lot of the offseason, Jordan Love was working with like Romeo Doubs and Aaron Jones out in California, and it wasn't so much Christian Watson. I think they did once or twice, but it was a lot of Romeo Doubs. And you see Romeo Doubs getting a lot of looks more in these drives than Christian Watson is. Is that coverage an issue? Maybe. Is that maybe Christian Watson not getting open? I don't know. But I think the 1 target is something to have us keep an eye on. Just making sure that, hey, maybe we don't know how this offense is going to click coming in the season. I want to correct myself too. 3 targets in Cincinnati instead of 1. I thought he must have had a couple more catches I just had missed.
17 snaps against the Patriots too for Watson, same as Romeo Doubs. I do think it's something to pay attention to because I think we talk about like the next like dynamic set of pass catchers for the Packers, and obviously that includes tight ends, running backs, especially with Aaron Jones' skill set and all that stuff. It'll be very interesting to see like how it works out with Christian Watson, just because he is such an athletic, wonderkin, and
Exactly.
he can just basically like just his value of sprinting down the sideline gives a threat and opens up the passing game for the Packers. But does that necessarily translate into, you know, him getting 5 catches a game or whatever the case may be. I wonder, you know, kind of the same questions that we had last year going to last year with Christian Watson, and obviously different quarterback, different circumstances, and all that stuff. But I do think it'll kind of take time, and he kind of feels more like whatever breakout that people are hoping to see from him. It might not necessarily happen right away. It might happen over the course of the season.
Yeah, just like it did last year,
And
like you said.
yeah, and again, part of that was injury and all that stuff too. But like, he's such a very specialized athlete that like it's very easy to pigeonhole him as like a deep threat rather than a guy like Romeo Dobbs who can work for extra yardage game or gains and stuff like that, possession style type of receiver.
Right.
And it's a matter of just kind of balancing both that, you kind of can lean on both of them for not just one thing or the other. It kind of just meshing them all together.
Yeah, I think Christian Watson's also the type of player that sort of gets better as the game goes on. Once that you see how the defense is playing your passing game and how they're setting up versus the run, you can start mixing in different types of looks for Christian Watson, different types of routes for him to run versus just streaking down the field or kind of get going out on posts to the middle of the field. But yeah, I think it'll all be okay for sure. It's just trying to make sure that he is properly incorporated into the offense because he is such a weapon when he can get open.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is definitely worth noting is that if we're going to be incorporating a lot of the middle of the field and a lot of Romeo Dobbs and a lot of Luke Musgrave, I think that might be where Matt LaFleur and his staff find a lot of value from Christian Watson is taking that safety away over the top. Because like if Jordan Love can work on his deep ball game, he had a good one to Romeo Dobbs, but he missed the one to Christian Watson last week. And if he can sort of refine that and start consistently throwing that long ball, even if it's just chucking it and getting it to Christian Watson, like overthrowing Christian Watson is fine, so long as you can hit it a little bit consistently with them. Because eventually they're just not going to bring that safety over to cover over the top if the ball's going to go too far anyways. But
Yeah.
taking that threat and taking that chance down the field with him and knowing he can run under a ball if need be is always a good thing to have on your team, which is why if he's doing that and the Packers are throwing to him down the field, that really opens up the middle for some big yardage gains that aren't Christian Watson.
And, it's not our preferred way of utilizing him, but they will probably utilize his feet on the ground and stuff like that. He did have a rushing touchdown last year. Again, speed is speed, and they'll try to manufacture ways to kind of get him the ball in any way that they can.
Right.
But it's more of like the intermediate routes, the kind of stuff, especially as you mentioned, the middle of the field is going to be utilized a lot in the passing game now. And that's a good way for Watson to help others, but it's also a good way for him to help himself, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, yeah. Moving on. Your boy, Anders Carlson, tamer of the leg. 2 for 2 on extra points. And one 52-yard field goal to end the first half. 52-yard field goal on the money. Would have been good from probably 55, 56. Like it was halfway up the uprights when it went through. So what were your feelings on Mr. Carlson?
We got a kicker, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Gutekunst also, I think, if any comments throughout the week, he said we're not bringing in anybody else for the kicker, and Anders Carlson is going to be. Not that there was any doubts, but they're riding. He's their ride or die. You know what I mean? You ride with him, you might die with him.
Hopefully more of
riding with you.
Hopefully more of the former rather than the latter.
Exactly. He's a 17 game player. Yeah.
I think it was mentioned this week that the Packers, I forget which coach, probably Bisaccia, had talked about how half the reason they drafted Anders Carlson was his mental aspect of kicking. He has a really good mental game when it comes to kicking and is able to sort of brush those misses off. And that's a huge thing to have as a kicker. So if
Yep.
he's got that already and he just needs to work on the mechanics and start just getting reps into kicking balls to the uprights, it could turn out to be a pretty decent pick. I'm not going to say good pick because I don't think a good kicker pick exists, but you know what I'm saying.
I mean, you never know. Maybe they drafted the next franchise scoring leader.
Maybe they did. And like,
Maybe they did.
I think that's definitely a high
They did
bar.
last time when they drafted a kicker.
2007, that's the last time they did it. And it worked out that way. But I guess that it's such a long-term thing to draft a kicker.
Yeah.
And like, you just hope you don't have to do it once every 10 years or so. And so,
Or even less.
exactly, that's what I'm saying is like,
Yeah.
you just hope you just don't have to do that often. And
Yeah.
here's to hoping that Anders Carlson is that 1 in 10.
Yeah.
Talked about Jaguara. Nothing too much else as like a general theme. Do you want to talk about our players of the game, sort of people that really impressed us? We did the same thing last week for you people listening. Different 6 this week. So, Jordan, who's your first one? Arguably,
Am I taking the floor?
you're taking the floor on arguably the best player this week.
Kingsley Enigbari. Good God. Yeah, that was all the same drive too. 2 sacks, 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, fumble, right?
Yeah,
Am I right?
He had
Yeah, sack fumble.
Yep, he had a strip sack and recovered it.
Yeah, beast material. If they're filming a next X-Men movie, I would submit him for casting as Beast, whatever that character was.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, off the rails already. There was a lot of talk of him having a good practice against Patriots. And it showed because he 1 sack, he literally just like stiff arm a person into, I believe, Mac Jones. That was that drive.
Yep.
And then a couple plays later, just wrecked another offensive lineman that just had no chance of stopping Enigbari. Yeah, without a doubt, easily the most impressive Packer, I would say, of the night, just because it was a 1-2 punch of just literally to get to the quarterback. And yeah, definitely rewarded with playing with the ones and showed it out immaculately Saturday night.
Yeah, he absolutely destroyed the right tackle on that sack. I think a stiff arm is the best way to put it, as you said. Just put his arm into the shoulder pad of the right tackle. Such great
It
form
was so ridiculous.
to get him off balance and just start shoving. Gets him off balance, goes through, gets the sack. Just so strong. And I think John Kuhn talked about it on the recap that that Enigbari always utilized like an undercut move in his play last year, but now in his second year he's added a lot of strength and now a bull rush that can really work well in tandem with that undercut. So here's to
Get
hoping.
that lasso out. Get that lasso. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either, but
Bull rush, I guess.
I guess, to really just let him go. It wasn't any guess that he wouldn't, but he's making the team, and I think this sets off a great succession plan post Preston Smith, which we don't really want to think about because Preston Smith was very good last year in his elevated role when Rashawn Gary went down, but I think with Rashawn Gary and Enigbari off the edges next year, possibly, I think that'll be sitting quite pretty for the team.
And I know I totally agree with you. Again, it's a future play and everything like that. But for this team too, part of the biggest criticism I would say, not just last year, but the last couple of years, we saw great success with Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith coming right away in free agency, but the Packers didn't really have depth beyond that with edge rushers,
right?
And I know they drafted Rashawn Gary, and his breakout got obviously
Stunted
injury
with the injury,
happened,
right?
but he was the next in line when they moved on from Zadarius Smith and all that stuff. But essentially the same thing happened when they are playing so many snaps and they suffered in the few snaps that Gary was on the field, or Preston Smith was on the field, or if he was dropped back in coverage for some damn reason. Um, all that stuff. And the fact that we know Rashawn Gary is coming back soon and he's resumed practice activities little by little. He'll get close to his debut and playing probably close to the regular season, obviously. But between Gary, Preston Smith, Enigbari, Lucas Van Ness, I thought showed some very interesting play. It didn't necessarily translate into tackles or production or anything like that, but I thought, hey, he's going after it, whether it's run or passes. I just think like the depth that they have at edge rusher this year. Justin Hollins too keeps making plays in preseason as well. Like they just they haven't had that in a while. And I think for this team this year, it's going to be so beneficial to have that where we know all the things with Joe Barry's defense and blitzes and all that stuff. The Packers, what was the stat that we talked about with PFF? Like they're the highest blitz rate, but it was also because
Oh yeah, they have the highest blitz rate, but it's because they always rush four in their 3-4
yeah,
defense.
yeah, and it's like
It's a fake. It's like a it's
it's a
honest.
fake.
It's honestly fake stats.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But for how they play, getting pressure as much as they do with their, whether whatever combination of their top edge rushers,
Hmm.
if they can do that and kind of, take care of it on the back end, which, we'll see. But I am I feel very comfortable with where we're at on the line, and there's more players that we'll get to with this game specifically. But like, I just think the edge rushing that they have right now is just so good with the depth that they have.
Yeah, they're in a good place that way. Now it's time to like shore up the middle of the line and make sure they can play up to par, so they can stop getting blitzed on some runs. Runs were relatively fine tonight. Saturday night. Ended up having if I can check the box score quickly, 96 yards on 20 carries, so about 5 yards a carry through 3 and some change quarters. But I think it's definitely worth noting. I want to go back to general themes before we move on to my player. Like you said, Lucas Van Ness played well. Didn't really translate into any sort of eye-popping tackles or sacks, but he was sort of flying around, sort of similar to how I talked about it last year that Devontae Wyatt was always in the play. Lucas Van Ness is always in the play somewhere. Like he's
Yep.
either forcing a guy outside or like chasing down a pursuit tackle a couple of times. He's just always around, which is a really good trait to have. Now it's just refining those skills, similar to how Devontae Wyatt is doing now, to become a effective edge rusher to get home and get a sack or stuff a run in the backfield to where he can do that consistently to become a real difference maker. The other theme I want to talk about that I had forgotten about was Carrington Valentine coming back down from I guess
Yes.
space after how excited we were last week about it. Didn't play terribly. He had the one touchdown let up, but I'm not attributing that to him. I'm attributing that to the coverage because I said it last week. I'll say it again. I swear to God, Jordan, if we're giving receivers 10 to 15 yards cushion on their breaks, I'm going to have a bad time. I'm going to have a bad time. Like, I immediately on the replay of the Kashan Booty touchdown, rewound it, looked back, and I'm like, where is the defender? Oh, he's not on the screen at the snap. Like
Hmm.
that's just that's a coverage issue. That is a Joel Berry issue. And if you're giving guys free breaks on their routes, to especially like a rookie like Keishawn Booty, where he's going to be trying hard, he's going to be putting in like every effort into his cuts. Of course, you're going to get beat if a guy runs a post route and he's got no hands on him. He's gonna get off clean. Like it's just
Yeah.
so then Carrington Valentine goes to break on the ball and is late because he's 10 yards away and alas 42-yard touchdown. So Carrington Valentine didn't play terribly. He just needs to learn how to play without contact. because a
Yes.
lot of what he did throughout the middle or throughout the game was just be very handsy. John Kuhn and Kevin Harlan talked about it a lot last week too. That really handsy player plays on the line of what is DPI and what is fine for a DB to interact with a wide receiver during their routes. And I think last week was the high margin where it really works out for Carrington Valentine, and this week was the low margin. I think he had a few penalties called on him for sure, and they weren't ticky tack. They were most certainly penalties
Yeah,
on
he's
him.
mauling them. Two pass interference calls too.
Right, and so I think it's a great trait to have. You want a cornerback that is physical and is able to get hands on receivers and really disrupt their routes. He just needs to.
Eric Stokes.
Yep, Eric Stokes, and I think it's just very important to be able to refine that. Not that he can't, but being a seventh round pick, right? He's in a great spot now to where he has good coverage while being physical. His development hinges on can keep that same level of coverage without being as physical to where he's interfering with the receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I thought, and also 58 snaps, gonna take that as probably the most of any player on the
Probably,
Packers.
probably
I believe that includes. No, that doesn't include. He had 9 snaps on special teams as
that
well.
that might be the whole game
Yeah. So yeah, he was out there for a while. Actually, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably the whole game, honestly.
because there's about 60, 70 snaps in a game, and having only
Yeah.
played 3 quarters.
Yeah, he's out there. Yeah, I thought too. I don't want to repeat the same points that you made, but I just thought it was very kind of not predictable, but it was expected to see, come being back down to earth and stuff like that. I thought too, Patriots kind of sought him out too, because it wasn't just, he was on different receivers over the course of the night and he was switching sides of the field, but they kind of were testing him,
Mhm.
which, as any good team does, you kind of do it. Like, if you think that you can kind of suss him out or, exploit something in a defensive back, you're going to go after it. And Bill Belichick, of course, does that more than anyone in terms of just like exploiting mismatches or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
But yeah, with that kind of just being featured as much as he was, I thought it was kind of expected to see, a little bit of a slip up kind of game from him. And it's not a indictment of what he's going to be with the Packers going forward with this season, but it also just shows, hey, this guy's a 7th-round rookie.
Yeah.
And it applies to a lot of these players, save for like the key veterans, but there's going to be a lot of ups and there's going to be a lot of downs, and you hope for more ups than downs.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's just all part of his development. Like he's
Yep.
6 months away from, or 6 months, not even. We're in month 9. He's 5 months out of being drafted. Like this is going to be a project, but I think it's going to be a worthwhile project if it works out. Like I think
Yeah.
the potential that he has to become a pretty solid cornerback in this league is high, so long as he can maintain the coverage he has without being physical. If he ends up needing to be physical because he's worried about getting beat, then it becomes an issue. But at this point in his career, I think he's set up okay. But it's a camp and 2 preseason games.
Yeah. Exactly.
You had mentioned 58 snaps. Yeah. 11 more than second place, which is Keandre Thomas. So
Yeah.
definitely worth like he played a whole lot of snaps. So my first player I'm gonna talk about is the same one as last week as one of my players is Emanuel Wilson. I'm bought in. I think he should just be the third back. It's pretty plain, it's pretty simple. During his first touch was like halfway through the second quarter once the starters came out. Emanuel Wilson had his first 4 touches. He had 37 yards, a catch in the flat for 10 yards, a great run for 9 yards, 14 yards on another huge hole run, and then I think like 2 yards to get like a 4th down conversion. Just what a running back they seem to have lucked into. I think Kevin Harlan mentioned he was played for Denver, not play, but was on the Denver team this spring. And they cut him, and
Yep.
the Packers picked him up. So like, appreciate it. The Broncos,
Thanks, Sean Payton.
yep, much appreciated.
He'll wear his bucket hats here.
Emanuel Wilson, 15 carries, 63 yards, no touchdowns, but also had 2 catches for 15 yards. Man, oh man, he makes it look simple catching and running with the ball. Like he looks like he could be the next back in Green Bay. I think with it,
Mm.
dude, I'm
Dude,
drinking the Kool-Aid and I'm buying in because
Wilson.
with how like Aaron Jones's contract situation is next year. If he comes back, I hope he does because he's Aaron Jones. We love him. With AJ Dillon in a contract year, it's tenuous as to who the Packers running backs are going to be next year. And if it's one, two, or both, who's to say? But if it's one, or should I say, if it's none, or one, or both,
Mm.
then that slots in a pretty good spot for a cheap young rookie like Emanuel Wilson to come in and thrive next year. And I just think he has a lot of talent and he gets going so fast off his first step, dude. Like his nine.
There's like I tried to like understand it in the Bengals game because that the run that he rattled off in that game was just very it was
It was
it
simple.
was it's simple but it's like impressive but it's simple and there's like this he's explosive but he runs in a very fluid way
Mm-hmm.
whereas like he's got thick legs. It's not AJ Dillon Quadzilla thick or anything like that, but the guy just once he gets moving he doesn't stop.
No.
And even plays where like there's not, the Packers were not playing with the ones that when he's playing on the field, and he's not having as big of holes to go into when he's running out the tackle or whatever the case may be. But I thought he just kind of made plays happen when there weren't many to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think again just to see this over and over again. I know it's 2 preseason games and we can question the quality of defenders that he's playing against, but it's working and you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing with this running back 3 debate that is obviously a big theme of this camp.
Yep.
And I got it's 27 snaps for Emanuel Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
14 for Patrick Taylor, who I will say did have a good game, had a touchdown, very impressive run that he just kind of made happen and
I,
scooted by.
I'm gonna push back on the impressive game. Four carries, 12 yards, and his longest was the touchdown of 8 yards. So he had 3 carries of 2, 1, or
Negative.
1. Right. Like I just need to see more with that. Like maybe it's just because he had 4 snaps. Maybe it is just that. But I'm not really intrigued by 3 carries of one of a total of 4 yards. And it
Yeah,
wasn't like it was on a fourth down where they needed a yard or anything like that. But
no.
only 1 catch for 5 yards. And like you said, he played half the snaps as Emmanuel Wilson did. I'd imagine a lot
I
of it
will.
is because they want to see Emmanuel Wilson more than they want to see Patrick Taylor now, just so they know what they have. But I'm just not there.
Can I say one stat that may inform where this is
Go ahead.
has been leading? 2 special team snaps for Emmanuel Wilson, 11 for Patrick Taylor.
I really don't.
I know.
I think keeping 4 running backs is a critical mistake. Like it's a really big mistake if they do that. I really don't think they should be keeping a guy just for his special team talent. Like they see something in Emmanuel Wilson. He wouldn't be getting
Really?
running back 3 snaps over Patrick Taylor if they didn't. Like because they're trying to figure out who the best guys are. And
Yeah.
for a quarter and a half, Emanuel Wilson really showed that he's got the goods over Patrick Taylor with the twos on that offense. If Patrick Taylor's role is strictly a special teams role, I just don't think I want him on the team. Like I think that there's other spots that need to be filled on this team, and if you just can't roster guys solely for his special team ability, you just can't.
And I mean, missing from this conversation is just because of injury is Lou Nichols, the guy that
and
they drafted in the
and
seventh
Goodson.
round. And Goodson, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, thought I was missing someone. Yeah, he was hurt too. Like the the decision is kind of getting easier, but it's also kind of getting harder because it's like who they're comfortable with, and obviously they're comfortable with Patrick Taylor as a utility player, whatever you want to call him, special teams player.
Right.
But Emanuel Wilson is making it very difficult, and it's hard to ignore what he does. And does it translate if he's a full time back? Whether that ever ends up happening, I don't know. I'm not gonna say yes or no on that, but
Mm-hmm.
like, this is about talent evaluation ultimately,
Right.
and you're again, it's to keep making a decision based on special teams where they are very much improved. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't think it's that big of a deal.
I also think it's easier to teach a guy how to play special teams than it is to teach a guy to be a better back. Like
Yes.
like special teams, it is what it is. It's difficult. It's an NFL position. Like it still needs you still need talented players there, but the concepts that you're running are much simpler than they are for any sort of offense. And I'm just I'd rather have Emanuel Wilson there should Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon go down than Patrick Taylor. Like I just do. And watching and it's not like we're playing against scrubs anymore, Jordan. Like these Emanuel Wilson had run against the second string players and some first string guys. Like sure, it's not the ones like you'll see all season, but you don't run against NFL players for 63 yards on 15 carries or bust off an 80-yard run last week if you're a bad player. Like you have talent. Not every Joe Schmo second or third string running back goes on 80-yard touchdown runs. It doesn't happen. So, do you want to talk about your second player, wide receiver position?
Let's do it.
The man,
Malik.
the man who
Sorry.
the man who I heard in the Discord has the hottest piss on the team.
Yeah. Shout out to Keith Kiskinen. I believe that's how his name is pronounced. Otherwise, I butchered it completely. Malik Heath, leading receiver for the night. Perfect 5 targets. Wait, 5 targets. A perfect 5 completions, or receptions, 75 yards. Um, he's making the roster.
He has to.
Simple. It's simple. The end of the wide receiver room, Dante was, oh my god. I
Dontavian
am getting
Wicks, Grant
I'm getting
DeBose.
so, yeah. I was about to combine them. Yeah, whatever. Wicks and DeBose both left with injuries. I believe DeBose was going to come back, but then the end of the game happened, and
Yep.
we all know what happened. Um, but DeBose, I will say too, DeBose did show some stuff and had some good catches. But Malik Heath, man, like he's got it. I don't know what it is, but he's got something,
He got something I want.
and he's got something I want, and I want him on that 53. Okay, Goody. Um, yeah, I think all the momentum from his summer OTAs, now training camp, preseason, it's all coalescing. And again, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. The guy, you think about it from this perspective, is if you cut bait with him at when it comes to cut downs, another team is going to pick him up, and you're going to be like, yeah,
You will lose him.
yeah, you will lose him. I know. Who was it a couple years ago? Was it Travis Fulgham? Do you remember who this
I know he.
was?
Yeah, I remember. I think we picked him up though, didn't we?
We had him. He got cut. Eagles picked him up because they just lost every
Oh, that's
receiver.
right.
This is
Yep.
maybe Jalen Hurts' rookie year,
Okay.
or even who Carson Wentz before that.
Okay.
And it's not like he's going to go to the Hall of Fame or
Right. He
anything
wasn't an
like
all
that,
pro,
he
but
served.
he was a player.
Yeah, he was a player. He served a purpose for an Eagles team that needed help and all that stuff. And
Right.
wide receivers, you roster a lot of them because a lot of them will and can get hurt. Knock on wood that Packers
Yeah.
don't have that problem. But when a guy like Malik Heath is making plays and doing the very things that the Packers wanted him to do, and just he easily gets separation, his hands are really great. I don't know why he was undrafted, especially when he did have a solid college career too, more so after transferring to Ole Miss.
Hmm.
But you know, whether things started to click for him in this after getting or after transferring and all that stuff, and kind of hitting the ground running, landing Green Bay, God just makes plays, and it's a nice dynamic to have beyond Watson, Dobbs, Jaden Reed, sorry, and Luke Musgrave and all that stuff. So very intrigued by Malik Heath, and the production just stands for itself too.
I think there's a pretty obvious first team in the waiver wire order that would pick up Malik Heath in an instant. It's the Chicago Bears.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the Bears have DJ Moore. Obviously, he's their one. Then it's Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Malik Heath can outplay those two already NFL players, but he can play, dog. And I think he can be an impact player soon, probably next year. Like, next year or pretty darn soon, because he's showing a lot of talent. Sean Clifford threw a couple of passes. He got Malik Heath and Grant DeBose both absolutely walloped on throws to the left sideline. How either one of them came down with the ball is beyond me, but they both went up and just grabbed the ball and made a great catch. And Malik Heath was doing that all night long. So 7 receivers might just be how the roster shakes out because of the pure talent that they have between, obviously, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed as top 3, and then Toure, Malik Heath, Grant DeBose, and who am I missing?
Wicks.
Like, they just might have 7 receivers, and maybe of those 5, 6, 7 receivers, that's who you run out on special teams if you're not keeping Patrick Taylor. Like, that might just be the better way to do it. Get these guys.
I mean, that might be Toure.
Might be Toure too. He didn't get he had 1 target, no catches in the game on Saturday night, but he was returning punts and kicks. He was back there. Like that was
Let me
that's what his role was against the Patriots this weekend.
7 special teams snaps. So yeah, probably almost all of them were punts and kicks.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find them as well, but for some reason I can't find it. Either way, yeah, Samari Toure, 4 kick returns, 3 punt returns. So of his 7 special team snaps, that's all he was doing was returning kicks. So I don't think he had actually taken any out. He might have taken a punt back, but I forget. Either way, that just might be your special teams gunners. Just these receivers that have talent. Go out and get them. Like, we'll see. So, my turn to talk about another player. Let's see if I nail some Malik Heath. Is Brenton Cox. That man is playing himself into a roster spot. Like, just the strength and athleticism he was showing against the D line or the offensive line he was going against. My word. There were so many times where I just saw him shed blockers like it was nothing and get to the quarterback. I think he had 1 sack, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to scroll down through the very long. He had 1 QB hit and then one tackle itself, but I think he's doing everything he can to showcase why he deserves to be on the team. And if he makes it, I think, again, the depth that the Packers would have at edge rusher would be simply insane. Simply insane. Rashawn Gary, Justin Hollins, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, Brenton Cox Jr., Kingsley Aguirre, like, they would just have so much talent there. We haven't even seen Aaron Mosby. Like, he has NFL experience, and we haven't even seen much of him.
Yeah.
Throw in some Quay Walker, too, blitzing. Like, it'd just be a lot of talent, dude. A lot of talent. And I always forget to look and see how many, like, players they kept at certain spots, like at how many players they kept at spots over the years. And I couldn't tell how many linebackers they're going to keep, but if they're keeping linebackers, it's going to be tough to argue against Brenton Cox Jr. because, again, every team has their own set of practice squad players that they like throughout camp. But I hate to invoke his name again, and I might think I'm obsessed. Dear, dear Mr. I don't call right my fans, me over here. If you put Brenton Cox Jr. like you did Micah Abernathy, you might lose him. You just might lose them because edge rushers are a premier position in the NFL right now, and you can never have enough good ones. And if they lose them, it'd be a missed opportunity. But at the same time, there are roster limits for a reason. You and I talked about this pre-pod just briefly that I really wish they'd expand rosters or have a developmental league like the NBA has. Like, I just really wish that they had more chances to keep players that they think can really play. And maybe this is just like this type of year. And it's like
because there's so many developmental pieces.
It's the exception to the rule for us. And I guess this might just be our first experience this in a long time. But they have so many young players right now that seemingly can play between Emanuel Wilson, Brenton Cox Jr. You can throw Patrick Taylor and Tyler Goodson there if you want to. Like, I'm fine throwing them in there as these guys that could be a year away. And, like, Josiah DeGuara, if they want to go Musgrave and Kraft, just that way too. Like, there's just so many players that they have right now that are showing good promise that cutting them would have really hurt just because maybe they turn into something or you need them in an injury. Like, I think that'd be like my main thing is that if I really wish they just expand rosters because roster turnover for a snake bitten team injury wise can get so tough and really ruin a season. And so that's my little tangent. I just wish they'd expand the rosters because Brenton Cox Jr. in my opinion is working his way onto the roster, but I don't know if he makes it just because there's so many other spots they need players, and 53 fills up pretty fast.
Very fast, especially if we're talking about 7 wide receivers.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right. Seven wide receivers and 3 backs. If they keep Emanuel Wilson, then that's 10, already 53. 10. That's 2 positions.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's where we'll see how next week affects us or anything like that, because you'll see more of the guys fighting for a roster spot.
Yeah.
But
I think I need him to get home next week. Just like get a sack.
Yeah, you want something of substance.
Yeah, get a sack. Like, I don't care if it's against the B team. Just get home.
Yeah.
I think that'll help his case a lot. What did you think of this game? Did you see him much moving around?
I thought he did well. I think even against Cincinnati, he's very explosive. He knows how to get to the quarterback. There's no question about what his talent or anything like that is. I do wonder, I do think it is a matter of you have to ask the question, is this guy worthy of being on the roster? And if we don't think so and want him on the practice squad, what does another team do?
Right.
They'll probably poach him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think maybe a little bit more substance next week might push him over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the pun. But again, it fills up pretty quick.
It does.
And he was the guy that I already kind of kept tabs on because of going into camp. I think it was Rob Domofsky. He predicted him as the undrafted free agent that kind of keeps the tradition alive of making the 53-man roster. Malik Heath probably carries that torch right now.
Or Emanuel Wilson.
Or Emanuel Wilson. There's a lot of options here. A lot of options here.
It's tough.
Just the depth of. That's the other thing. The depth of
what they already
the Packers
have.
Stand. Yeah.
What they already have. Yeah. I wonder if
that might.
I think it's tough. I don't think they trade him because you can't really get a whole lot for a trade on an undrafted free agent. But maybe. I guess I'm curious now. Pick one to not make the team. Wilson, Heath, or Cox?
Wilson.
So now we're going to fight, huh?
I'm just saying. I think
so now we're going to fight.
Happen. That's what's going to happen. I'm not trying to fight.
I think you're trying to fight. I think you're trying to offend me personally. I'm gonna
Where's
talk
the
to Emanuel
love?
on the sideline because it's preseason. He is gonna play next week for what it's worth. But
Yes, he
regardless,
is.
regardless, I will be very upset. That 2 years in a row that my camp darling gets cut.
Yeah, but now you want Brenton Cox?
I want Wilson more than Cox. That's why I had Wilson first before
Yeah.
Cox in my order. For what it's worth.
Hmm.
All right, Jordan, who's your third?
I was gonna go with Carl Brooks. I am looking it over. It's gonna be a combo.
Love
If that's
combos.
possible.
Pizza combos? Whoo! The a la carte line in high school? Whoo!
It's gonna be Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden.
That's where I thought you were going because they both played very well.
They both play very well. I was gonna focus on Carl Brooks. Fantastic game. Uh, tackle, solo tackle, one tackle for loss, and a QB hit. Colby Wooden, 3 tackles, 1 solo, and a QB hit. Both Colby Wooden had 43 snaps on the night, 37 snaps for Carl Brooks. They did work. They did work feasting on some ones of the offensive line for the Patriots, but a lot against the twos, and it really showed. Part of my burp. And I am very much like the Edge conversation, not you two. Very, very intrigued by the interior defensive line depth beyond Kenny Clark, who didn't play Saturday night. Devontae Wyatt played a little bit,
Yeah.
had a couple flashes there.
Couple of holes plugged for in the run game.
Yeah. Flex Seal. I don't know what that.
What an awful joke. You know the emote in Discord plug, join the Discord
Yes.
GSP.info. You can see me throw tomatoes at Jordan for his bad jokes like that one was.
There you go.
You can't nickname the man Flex Seal.
Well, I'll name Carl Brooks that or Colby Wooden. Who wants the Flex Seal award of the 2023 season? We should have awards.
The 2023 Flex Seal award goes to the man who
Goes
plugged
to
the most holes. That'll get us in
Zach
trouble.
Tom.
That'll get us in trouble.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I thought both of them just kind of feasted on the competition and really liking what we have seen from them so far. And it's all about how that looks against the starters of opponents going forward now for me.
Yeah, I think they absolutely both looked pretty good in their time. They kept just like popping up and never made like huge plays. I think one of them had a sack, but other than that, it was just like guys where I'd watch the replay, like, oh, like what's Carl Brooks doing there? What's Colby Wooden doing there? Oh, making impact plays to kind of blow up a play. And so it's good progress to have as rookies. So as the title card says, and as the title of the podcast says, young players making huge leaps. Like these guys are playing very well. Close enough for you audio listeners. Jordan was pointing to the cryon below. So yeah, I think they played quite well. If they can continue to develop, this is all the talk this preseason is development. They'll be pretty good. I think, like you said, the interior defensive line ability and skill level is a pretty big point this year. Hopefully in stopping the run game and not being as porous as it was last year. So outside of I'll say Zach Tom, outside of Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt, hopefully there's some depth help there with those two guys. My last player is Rasheed Walker. Played outstanding as a starter this game against the Patriots. Just held his own against guys like I'm gonna get his name wrong, Judon, but I can't remember his first name.
Matthew Judon?
I want to say Matthew, but I didn't know if that was right or not. Yeah, Matthew Judon, and that's a tall task. Like he's no slouch, and Rasheed Walker was standing him up and being a pretty awesome left tackle for Jordan Love the entire night. Jordan Love, no sacks. I'm not sure if he got hit at all. I'm pretty sure he didn't. He might have had like one like disruption. I guess that's not even the right word, but I think hit is the right word because it wasn't a knockdown, it wasn't a sack, so like a hit. So
Mm.
regardless, very very good line. Discord talked about it again. The guys in there, that the Packers' offensive line is really really good. Like their best five when they're out there are really really good.
At least I would say on the edges.
Oh, for sure. Like
You
they
know,
have options between obviously Bakhtiari and Rasheed Walker and Zach Tom and Nineman, and you can throw Elton Jenkins in there if you want. But if they like Zach Tom's best position is tackle. Like he's doing a really great job at right tackle, but he can play center. So if you put
mhm.
your five best linemen out there of Bach, EJ, Tom, pick somebody, Sean Ryan or John Runyon and at right guard, and then Nyman over at right tackle, or Rasheed Walker, pick one. Like just pick one. They have a lot of depth on their line, and that's going to be very very important for Jordan Love this year. Like this might be a big year for Jordan Love to go buy them 55-inch flat screen TVs and everything for keeping them upright.
Yeah, from that Bergstrom sponsorship. I think if we're gonna have one more theme for Jordan Love
Yep.
and talk about him, really clean pockets.
Really clean
Both games.
pockets. Yep.
That is huge.
Yep. And
Huge.
if you can have clean pockets throughout the year, we won't need to talk about a dirty pocket or a crowded pocket, we'll say. I hate this.
Just do your laundry. Just do your laundry
do
if
your
you got a dirty
laundry.
pocket.
But the point being is that he hasn't had anything in his face, like while
Yeah.
throwing. He hasn't been disrupted. He hasn't had to scramble much. Like any of his scrambles besides his run tonight have been bootlegs, which are designed sort of runs and throws. And so I think it gets even better once you get into the regular season. Like you're gonna have Bakhtiari there on your backside to really shore up any sort of worry that way. The only issue comes on is like on blitzes, and we'll see how Aaron Jones, Ij Dillon, whoever the third back is, pick up blitz protection on those passing plays. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to look at this year. Is that if the pocket can stay clean and Jordan Love can continue to deal with a clean pocket, we're going to be in for a good season. If the sort of pocket becomes crowded, starts collapsing a little bit, and it starts to get a little messy, that might be where we see his inexperience in the critical part of his game.
Especially with how much play action is going to figure into what they do. So, yeah, it's if there is a year where you want to start watching offensive line play, this is going to be it because it will. I know it sounds like I'm joking, but
Yeah.
I am very excited to watch this line throughout the season because I think it will go a long way in determining just if we're talking about a lot of Packer wins or Packer losses.
I think Rasheed Walker is a great succession plan too. Like I think long term, like I think Bakhtiari's deal ends this year, right? Like this is the last year of his deal. I'm almost certain it is.
Vamp.
Or if it's not, then it's other situation, kind of like how Aaron Jones.
Well, he's not getting traded.
No, he's not getting traded. Goody came out this week and said he was
What
not
the hell
getting
was
traded.
that?
Well, Aaron Rodgers put out a cryptic tweet about trading for Bakhtiari.
Bakhtiari's contract does not end until after the 2024
Yeah.
season.
So he's got one more. Yeah, this year and next year, essentially.
Yes.
So
And the cap hit would be next year would be over 40 billion.
yeah. So never mind. He's likely on the team next year, if unless he gets traded. unless he gets traded, which they're not doing right now, from what Goody said. The point being is that whether it's Nyman who's gone next year, or if they trade Bakhtiari, Tom's slotting in at either tackle spot somewhere. And I think Rasheed Walker's contract would go through, I think next year, 2026. I lied. So he's got one more year after Bakhtiari to where he can really prove himself. And he might be proving himself right now to be the guy opposite of Zach Tom when that time comes.
Yeah.
So, anything else, Jordan?
No, I think we kind of summed up a good preseason game. A lot of standouts. It's good to talk about a lot of standout players on both sides of the ball. That is very kind of shows you that there's good progress going into camp. or at this stage in camp and going into the season. And at this point, I know we got next week and stuff like that, but it's all Jonesing for the real thing.
Yeah.
Much like Jordan Love.
Yeah, he said that too this week. He's ready for week 1, as I think we all are. So Packers play Saturday night, I believe, Saturday at noon against
I was gonna say it's noon.
The Seahawks, and from there, that Tuesday is cut day, the 29th. So they'll have Sunday, Monday to figure out their 53-man roster, or until pick a time on Tuesday. I think it's 5 o'clock or something.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's 5 o'clock Eastern,
probably. So that'll be that, and then at the end of the day, they'll have their set 53. Might move around a little bit, as I think it did not last year, but 2 years ago, where they had 53, cut 52, and then picked up a guy they cut, or a different guy that was cut somewhere. So it'll be interesting for sure. For now, in the meantime, you can check out all of our recent episodes on Spotify. You can check out our episode with Malcolm Hart, who is the Pride podcast host for the Detroit Lions, as we did our NFC North roundup with him. You can check out all the Eurostep information and podcast at gspn.info. There you'll find links to the Eurostep pod feed, which is with Ty and Rohan. Talked about Giannis not playing in the FIBA Cup, and in general laughing at the Sixers because they are in shambles. You can also check out Cruising for a Bruising there.
I would like to make an announcement.
Ooh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I will never play for Daryl Morey. He's a liar and a snake. I will never play.
I'm glad we got that short up.
Thank you. I know there's been a lot of speculation.
Do you want to repeat it?
Yeah, I would like to repeat it. I will never play for Daryl Morey. He's a liar and a snake, and I hate him.
If you haven't known, Daryl Morey and James Harden are not getting along. They are fighting. Who's will be. You can check out Cruising for a Bruising. Go check out the Dodgers episode where we're talking about the Brewers getting swept by the Dodgers because the lovely hosts of Andrew Snyder and Adam McGee put a lot of effort into waking up for that pod and recording it. So go listen to that one. And then you can be really, really sad because they got swept. But then Monday morning, August 21st, you can listen to the newest episode of Cruising for a Bruising, which includes the Brewers getting revenge, I guess, on their karma or just their vibes.
I believe I saw the Brewers team account say, oh God, I saw it today. I started laughing. I love the Brewers. I do. But they said something about statement series.
Cool.
A series after they just
got
their
swept.
asses kicked
Yeah.
by the Dodgers.
I think they scored 3 runs or 4 runs, and I think they had 1 man on base in the Dodgers series. Yeah. It was not good. But then
statement series, all right.
But then they traveled to Arlington. They travel to Arlington and sweep the first place Texas Rangers in Arlington. So much better vibes that way. And it wasn't really close any of the games. 9-1 at one point in this Friday game. Came back to be 9-8 and they won. But on a nice catch by Sal Frelick. Then 2 not so close games Saturday and Sunday. So go check out Cruising for a Bruising as the Brewers continue their playoff push. It's a good one. Good pod to go check out. Would recommend. And then obviously, go check out My Time for This. Still talking about the Premier League as it returned last week. So anything Eurostep Podcast Network, you can check out at gspn.info. You can check us out at Packers GSPN on Twitter. Go rate 5 stars on Spotify or any of your podcast platforms. You can follow me on Twitter at Numac is known. You can follow at Jordan on Twitter at Jordan Chesky. Follow all the stuff. Engage with all the accounts. We'd appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.